Good afternoon. It's good to be with you. This is Ron Deal. We talk about life, love, and relationships on this Periscope. Glad you're joining us. Look, Robert and April Cox, glad to have you. I think you guys are here every single time. Tim for Family joined. Good to have you here. Please remember to share this with somebody. Somebody's bound to want to see this. I don't know who it would be, but Anna from Delaware, nice to have you here. So swipe from the left on an iOS, swipe from the bottom on an Android, and share it. All right, please do that, and then we'll know that you shared, and we'll give you kudos. If you want to give us kudos, you can just tap the screen, hit that little screen, and it will send some hearts. Soaring. See how that works? Isn't that cool? There's so much going on in the world today, and with the media the way it is, we can instantly know about tragedy anywhere for any particular reason. And any of us who are parents, hello from Greg Pettis in Springfield. Hello, Greg Pettis. Good to have you here. We're concerned about our kids and how do we have conversations with them, and how does that affect their well-being? Glad you love the summit. He's talking about the summit on Step Family Ministry. If you don't know what that is, we'd love for you to find out. Just go to FamilyLifeBlended.com and you can learn more all about that. So talking today about talking to your kids about tragedy. So there's a lot here that I want to share, so I'm going to jump in, okay? Feel free to make comments and ask questions. We'll try to grab them. Nicole is here in the background. Shannon's in the background. They're going to be trying to take note of questions and comments and pass them along to me. But I've got a lot I want to share with you, so let's just jump in, okay? First of all, let me make it clear, what I'm not talking about today is necessarily when tragedy happens in your household or to your children, or something very, very close to them. This is important for me to say. I'm going to be talking about when something happens in the world, okay? And it may have been on the other side of town or the other side of the country or the other side of the world. And, I'm thinking a lot about San Bernardino and the Paris terrorist attacks that have happened recently. Lots for us to talk about, lots going on in the news. And how do kids feel about that? And what do we do to try to help them? Again, I'm not talking about when the threat has been very, very close to your child. That's a different experience. The first filter you need to think through as a parent is, what's the proximity to us? And by the way, your emotional and psychological well-being is going to be tied to this as well. If there was a tragedy to a child in your child's class at school, that's very close to home. And you're going to feel that at a level different than if it's something on TV that happened all the way around the world. That's also true for your child, okay? That's going to require more conversation, more talk, more time, more investment of energy. I'm not talking about those instances today. Someday maybe we can come back to that. I lived in a community where we had a school shooting back in 1998, and I was on site at the school the night of the shooting. Let me tell you, that was a somber environment. I've been through my own loss. My whole family, my wife and our two other boys, watched our third son die in a hospital. We've been there, and we've been very close to tragedy. I'm really not talking about that today, okay? Natural disasters, tornadoes, earthquakes, hit the news. Your kids hear about it, you hear about it. What do? Or it could be violent actions, terrorists attacking. It could have been something that happened in your city or your neighborhood, things that just you become aware of. How do we talk about that? That's what we're discussing today, okay? So, first of all, let me suggest to you that another filter you need to think about is your child, the age of your child. So, the proximity was the first filter, right? How close to home is this? We're talking about things today that are not terribly close to home. Second filter is your child. What's going on with your child developmentally? Then I want to say something about, okay, here's what you can say, and here's what you can do, and here's who you point them through. Question came in, do you tell kids that people are just evil? Okay, I'm going to answer that as I go through this first lens that you should wonder about, and that is, developmentally, where's my child? Let's talk about kids under the age of 5, for example. Okay, first of all, very, very young kids, 2, 3, probably don't need to know anything about it. You probably don't need to just tell them a lot of detail about what happened in San Bernardino unless they happen to hear something or see something, somebody said something within earshot and they bring it up. Otherwise, it's really okay if you don't talk to them about it. Okay? Other children, 4 and 5 years of age, may hear about it. You want to tell them just the basic facts. You don't need to go into details. Do you need to tell them that people are evil? No, that's going to scare the bejeebers out of a 5-year-old. That's not helpful. Okay? So we'll come back to that question with other ages of kids. With young kids, go about your routines as usual. That's where their safety comes from. Life is going on and moving forward. It's very important with young kids to limit their exposure to the media. Why? Because they're seeing images that they don't understand. They can't get their head around. I can't get my head around some of that stuff. They're not going to be able to get their head around that. Here's what this means. You don't want to be sitting watching news live with your kids in the room, because you don't know what they're about to report, what images they're about to share, what graphic details are about to come through. Don't do that. If you're going to watch the news, keep the kids outside of the bedroom or TiVo that news broadcast and watch it later when you can ensure that your children are not going to be exposed to that. Children ages 6 to 11, let's talk about them for a minute. They need some basic facts. They need to know what's going on. Okay, and what are the basic facts? It's kind of the what and where, kind of, what happened, where was that, who was involved. Elementary, basic facts. Minimal exposure to the media and the details of that. That's TV media, that's iPad media, that's mobile phone media. Again, no graphic details. They don't necessarily need to know the scale of the situation or the scope, who was involved, how many people. Those are all details. A bad thing happened when somebody walked into a building and shot some people. And we're very sad for them. Let's pray about that. Let's talk about that. What have you heard? Right? Then you're engaging the child. Again, very limited basic facts. Okay? Be open to their questions. What have you heard is a great thing, because they may have picked up something at school or online or what have you. And then quickly get to reassuring them about safety and about the efforts that you're making, that police are making, that the government is making to ensure that we are safe. By the way, 4 and 5-year-olds, they need that too. And that reassurance comes in the form of a great big hug. It comes in the form of us saying, I'm here and we're going to protect you. It comes in the form of just saying something about police have already captured this person, or this is what's happened. That sort of thing is really reassuring to a child. Essentially, they're asking the same questions we're asking. Am I safe? Do the people I love, are they safe? Or are they in jeopardy in any way? And so they need reassurance about that. Teenagers. Obviously, they're a lot older. They have a lot more sources of information. They're going to hear a lot. Sometimes kids are open and want to talk. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's hard to kind of get inside their world. So one of the things I would suggest to you is just start that conversation with asking them what they know. What have they heard? What are they aware of? Get them talking about it. Then you know what gaps to fill in, if any. What questions do they have? And then encourage them not to explore the graphic images online. Now, I know that's tough. Some kids are going to do it anyway, especially the curious ones when they have access to iPads and computers and all kinds of things. But just encourage them, right? Just let them know that they don't need to be filling their mind up with all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so those are just some high-level thoughts about kids and developmental progression and what they need. By the way, I just want to hit you with a couple of thoughts around how do you know if a child's really struggling with something, okay? So here's some quick signs that a child might not be coping very well. You're going to see a disruption in something in their life. It might be sleep, for example. They might be getting a lot of sleep or not enough sleep or having nightmares. And not just 1 or 2 nights, all right? It's very common for anybody after a tragedy has occurred to feel that for a few days. But if that lingers for a couple of weeks and beyond a couple of weeks, okay, it might be time to talk to somebody, go talk to a pediatrician, have maybe somebody assess your child and just make sure they're okay. A school counselor, sometimes you have access to things like that. There's always professional counselors and play therapists with young children that can be very helpful. There might be a disruption in their physical complaints. They might not be feeling well, or have a headache or a tummy ache, or just be complaining of somatic, we call them bodily expressions of their anxiety. Again, they're not unlike us, right? Some people get headaches, some people get backaches. Those are somatic expressions of that anxiety. And children are kind of the same. Changes in behavior. Some kids regress. Again, the greater the threat level to a child, the more you're likely to see this kind of thing. Not something, if it's just information about something that happened a long ways away, we tend to not see this type of stuff. But if it's close to home, you very well might see a child bedwetting. Their misbehavior and acting out and being angry and having more conflicts with their siblings. Some kids get more clingy. Okay, they are worried about the adults and their family members, that they just hang on to us, young children in particular. And then some kids have some emotional struggles, sadness, depression, some signs like that. Again, normal for that to occur for a little while. 2 weeks longer, lingering on, talk to somebody. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked a little bit about children, developmental ages, what do you say? Well, you want to reassure them. I got to tell you, I've got mixed feelings about this. People in the mental health world will say, well, you really need to reassure a child and let them know that they are safe. I absolutely agree with that. And at the same time, there is this sense that nobody can be safe. Nobody can predict that. We don't run the world and we don't control people. Obviously, that's why a tragedy happens. And so as you say it, sometimes you're even aware that you can't guarantee that measure of safety. So what we're trying to do is just reassure them in the moment that we're there, that we care, that we're with them. Here's what's going on around you. Here's what's not going on around you. Part of the reason you give elementary age children and teenagers some basic facts about when and where, so they have a sense that it's not here. Okay, that's a part of the reassurance process. It's okay for you to acknowledge your fears and to say, this has got me a little worried about what's going on in our world. I get that. And at the same time, we're trusting in God. We're trusting in what we know to do to remain safe, and we're watching out, and we're going to be courageous as we face this situation as a family. There's reassurance in there on a lot of levels. It's okay to be worried. It's okay to feel this. I'm anxious about it too, but that's not all, right? We're still going to face the day. We're still going to move forward. We're still here for each other. And I think you can reassure children about any efforts that you've made to provide for their safety. And again, the farther away the event is, the less you need to do this. But the closer to home the event is, the more you need to do this. So essentially, we're leading by example by talking about what we're doing and how we're involved, and that's helpful. By the way, if you ever notice something about your child, it's okay to say it out loud, especially, imagine a 10 or 11, 12, 15-year-old, you're saying, I've noticed you've been a little cranky lately. You want to tell me what that's about? Seems like you've been upset since such and such happened. Tell me about that. It's okay to do that. It's okay to kind of connect their behavior or some observation you make about their life with what it means. That might help open up an avenue for them to have conversation. Another observation I have about children, especially young children, is that they can have pretty sporadic and disjointed expressions of emotion about things. My wife is a school teacher, and recently she spent a good bit of time on a field trip with a group of students. And there's this one student in particular that she happened to know that her family is going through a really difficult time. And all day long, she was happy, she's playing, she's having a good time, she's fitting in with all the other kids. Nothing's wrong. And then, all of a sudden, on a dime, this little girl turned and immediately started crying, immediately started sobbing, and immediately showed great anxiety about her life and about what was going on in her home. And if you're taken back by that. You shouldn't be. That's actually pretty normal for young kids. They tend to grieve in spurts. They tend to compartmentalize what's happening in their world. And it's on, and then it's off, and then it's on, and then it's off. Don't be surprised by that. Just take advantage of those moments to talk with them when they're feeling it. But then don't judge them when they're not feeling it.